Robert Saleh is back, and the 49ers want to return to 2019 level defensive line dominance to help out this guy, find a bookend for this guy, Nick Bosa. State of the 49ers defensive line is up, and we're wrapping up our 49ers Paris tour, which means elite sandwiches to pair with talk of the 49ers defense returning to elite levels. You know, the Senior Bowl's happening right now. Just so happens that KJ Wright, the 49ers assistant linebackers coach, was a quality control coach under Johnny Holland this past season. Just so happens that he is coaching edge rushers for the national team. And one of his players was the sack leader in college football, Mike Green out of Marshall, and he is turning heads at the Senior Bowl this week. And KJ Wright is going to have a very, very detailed scouting report of Mike Green to bring back to the 49ers.
The guy led college football in sacks. I mean, what else do you need to know? The guy just finds a way with what his body gives him.
Yep.
And so he's really fun to work with. The guy's been in the film room. We watch film before. We want to watch it after practice. He asked me earlier today, what can I get better at? Like, the guy's just a student of the game. And he's a bona fide baller. So I love working with him. He's an awesome kid. And he's going to really work up the draft charts.
17 sacks, led the nation last year for Mike Green. And he's 248 pounds. So this is the lighter, more athletic edge rushing type that has paired well with Nick Bosa in the past. Remember Dee Ford in 2019? He was 245, maybe 250 pounds, out of Auburn, roared off the edge. The speed rush for the 49ers is, I think, what binded that line together. I know that they have Leonard Floyd now, and Floyd had a fine season. If you take a look at the metrics for the 49ers defensive line, Floyd had 8.5 sacks and a decent pressure rate for San Francisco, but he's more of a cleanup sack guy in that he's not going to win one-on-one as often. He's an effort player. 49ers had a few players with good years, especially good finishes along the defensive line. Aside from Leonard Floyd, obviously Yetur Gross-Matos, he's going to be the Charles Omenihu Arden Key. He's under contract for 2 years. And Malik Collins on the inside, actually ranked number 7 out of all defensive tackles in pass rush win rate. But the depth did not perform well for the 49ers this past year. And it hadn't performed well now for a couple years. I mean, you go back and you look at the 2019 defensive line, and they were so good 1 through 7, 1 through 8. Now, you know, at the peak of performance in 2024, the 49ers were good 1 through 3 or 1 through 4. And the good news is that those top 4 guys, they're all under contract for the 2025 season. They signed a bunch of guys to 2-year deals before the 2024 offseason. So the 49ers did plan to really allow some of these players to grow into their roles, and I think that with Yetur Gross-Matos, with Malik Collins, they're happy, but they're not happy with positions 5 through 8, 5 through 9 on this defensive line. And that's where you turn to the draft. I think that, you know, you look at somebody like Mason Graham out of Michigan, that's a premium defensive tackle. That's somebody who probably is going to go in the top 10. 49ers don't pick until number 11. I would not put it past them to go after somebody like Mason Graham. That might require a trade up to like number 7. That may be all the capital that the 49ers have, but I think they need an impact defensive tackle, because when you talk about this defense losing some steam since 2019, Saleh had everybody, right, in 2019 when they peaked. They had DJ Jones as like D lineman number 6 or number 7. They still had DeForest Buckner. They still had Eric Armstead. All those guys are gone now. DJ Jones, by the way, is going to be a free agent. So maybe we see a reunification there. Maybe Solomon Thomas comes back to the 49ers as a good rotational piece. He followed Saleh to New York. Same thing with Javon Kinlaw. He followed Robert Saleh to New York. So maybe the 49ers bolster defensive tackle that way, but I think that when you look at what they've lost since 2019, it's been mainly at that defensive tackle spot. You know, even when they had the number 1 defense in all of football, and that was with DeMeco Ryans as the defensive coordinator, they were precariously thin at defensive tackle. They only got 2 or 3 sacks all season from their defensive tackles combined in that 2022 season. So, and then the talent drain has just continued. Obviously, Eric Armstead was replaced with Malik Collins, and Collins has been that number 7 defensive tackle pass rush win rate guy. You love that, but they need more at defensive tackle. And that's why I talk about Mason Graham out of Michigan. But is it possible that they go for an edge rusher? That's, we watch KJ Wright coach Mike Green, and we see Mike Green dominate people. 17 sacks for Marshall last season, and I just, people are going to say his arms are going to be a little bit short. Obviously, dominated Josh Connerly, the projected first-round draft pick out of Oregon, on the leveling play that we saw during the Senior Bowl practices. I care more about results than strict measurables, and I think that Mike Green delivered results in college. He's delivering results going up against guys who are projected to be first-round draft picks. As KJ Wright said, you can't fake your way through those 17 sacks. It would not shock me if the 49ers came out of this draft with multiple defensive linemen picked. Everybody's going to be hammering home, hey, they have to pick offensive linemen, but the 49ers are going to go with where they can spot the most value. And there is a surplus now, it seems, of defensive linemen available relative to offensive linemen available, just because of how the development of the game has gone at the lower levels. And, this started about 10 or 15 years ago. You had maybe even a little bit more than that, but you had a lot of skill position weapons at the high school level flip to defensive line, become edge rushers to take advantage of that athleticism that they had to really constrict the pocket and win the game at ground zero, point blank, right at that defensive line. And the downstream effects of that have been this surplus in D-line talent. And if you've seen a team like the Philadelphia Eagles, who a couple years ago went to the Super Bowl, lost to the Chiefs with an older defensive line. Hassan Reddick, Javon Hargrave, the 49er, was on that defensive line. They have completely rebuilt that line, and now they're back at the Super Bowl against the Chiefs. They've drafted Jalen Carter. Nolan Smith is on that D-line. A lot of young names. Like, the average age was like almost 30 a couple years ago for the Eagles. Now the average age is closer to 25, maybe even a little bit underneath that. So the 49ers need to rebuild their D-line in the same way. Howie Roseman got it done very quickly in Philadelphia. John Lynch needs to get it done just as quickly in San Francisco. They're still going to run the wide nine. Saleh took the wide nine with him to the Jets, and it worked there. They had top 5 defenses for that New York Jets team. They're still going to run the wide nine, but for the wide nine, you've got to have Ferraris across the front. Nick Bosa, he's a Ferrari. Maybe the 49ers can add a Mike Green. That'd be a Ferrari to add to the line. Maybe they can add a Mason Graham. Maybe they can sign a DJ Jones. Maybe they can even sign a Hassan Reddick, who's going to be a free agent. Although I think that'd be going in the wrong direction. I think they want young, durable talent with a lot of future upside. Hassan Reddick, after the holdout last year, only had 1 sack. But that is how you rebuild the defensive line if you're the 49ers. You dip into the talent pool of this draft class. It might be the most deep class of defensive tackles, and we're starting with Mason Graham on that front, that we've seen in a long time. So it wouldn't shock me if the 49ers went that direction. It wouldn't shock me if they also tried to load up on those edge rushers with Mike Green, starting with Mike Green, moving on to some other edge rushers in the NFL draft. That's what Saleh's going to need. I think that's what he's going to talk about with Chris Kraseric, and that's what San Francisco needs at the bedrock of this defense to bring this back to the glory days of 2019. It's tapered off since then, and last year was bad for the 49ers. They dropped all the way to the number 26 defense, number 29 against the run. They've had to fire 2 straight defensive coordinators. Steve Wilks just signed with the Jets, actually, under Aaron Glenn. Glenn, defensive-minded head coach from the Lions. So I think Wilks is going to fit with the Jets better. He didn't fit with the 49ers. That was a performance regression. They went from number 1 to number 10 overall, from number 2 to number 26 against the run. And then this past season, the 49ers tumbled even further from number 10 to number 26 overall. Wasn't good enough. That's why Saleh's back, but that's why they have to invest in this defensive line. It has to be the engine of the team. Probably the last big video we'll do here from Paris. You can take a look at the view of the whole city from Mount Mart, right under the Sacré-Cœur Cathedral. You can see all the way back to the city.